Mastery, mentally and physically. Escaping dramas plaguing the world is never easy, G. Society is straight up set out to hurt you indirectly. Where God logic is diabolic. Let me kick it. Most importantly, gotta dodge technology. Leave that Similac alone. Breastfeed your seeds. The gift of motherhood, you pass on your antibodies. Defense against sickness, unwanted virus. Realize we came to this land by savage pirates. Never migrated, forced dehydrated. Instrumental tools, so knowledge dilapidated. Forced to bring it back, the most high heals the wounds. From the time you conceive till the day you lay in tombs. Re-educate thyself from spoken fables. Descendants of the kings and queens who made it stable. Whose anatomy contains royal genealogy. You're not the minority, the unseen majority. Communicating brother to brother before a dialect. Developed longevity, built the first community. Understood the science of healing through herbology. First open heart surgeon was under King Zauza. Erecting pyramids, living off the Nile River. There's so many unknown facts about self, I shiver. I stop a second, think to myself, it make me quiver. How much we tried inside of the self and just deliver rays of light of the sun through the stratus. Peace as I release this apparatus. Mastery, mentally and physically. Mastery, mentally and physically. Mastery, mentally and physically. Mastery, mentally and physically. Escaping dramas plaguing the world, it's never easy, G. Mastery, mentally and physically. Mastery, mentally and physically. Mastery, mentally and physically. Escaping dramas plaguing the world, it's never easy, G.
What's going on? It is another episode, another time for dialogue and edification and uplifting with the soul therapy here on Resource Center TV. I am Pastor Ben Free, and I'm back here with Brother Will McKee. Brother Will McKee, how are you feeling this evening, brother?
I'm good, man. Glad to be with you, bro. Ready to get some of this soul therapy.
I hear you. I hear you. And for those that may not know or understand, this is just something where we just, it's random. It's no script, no nothing. We just feel some time, late at night. Sometimes we just want to have some positive, uplifting conversation. So we bring it here to just give some soul therapy, and hopefully it's therapeutic and for you all as well that join us. And we just hope to keep building this community, and that people will come in and hang out and join us and just thought-provoking conversation. But most of all, that is centered in love and bearing life-giving fruits to put out that energy of love and life. Because right now, that's what's needed in our world, our society, in our hearts. So with that, Brother Will McKee, just a quick temperature check with you, brother. What's going on? How you been, man?
Man, I've been well, brother Ben. I want to give a couple shout outs before we get into the conversation, if that's right.
That's
Uh,
all right with me, brother.
I wanted to shout out. That's good with you, brother. I wanted to shout out a African American entrepreneur right here. This candle is actually lit just like us. So
That's
this
right.
is Precious Cargo. And this scent right here is very and current. And when I tell you this thing smells like righteousness, I got that from my
Yeah.
brother Kenny. He said I bet that candle probably smell like righteousness. But check her out. Her web. Let me see. Her website is this is an African American woman who does shea butters, candles. She's also a doula. just like your first lady. Um,
Amen.
herbal herbal soy candles at www.preciouscargo.com, and that's kind of related to her doula duties. And Janita Emery asked, "What does it smell like?" And the best word I can get is righteousness. And it smells, as my brother Kitty said, it smells like righteousness, man. You won't get this out of Publix or Food Line or Family
No.
Dollar. These are ancient scents that heighten the chakras. I'm just convinced in it. I'm convinced of it. So it's a beautiful smell. You know, yeah, that is a smell. It is. Righteousness is a smell. It's a and African American. She has an interesting story too. She was actually abandoned at 6 months old, left on the doorsteps of a church in Greensboro, North Carolina, and she was adopted by a military family who just loved on her for all those years. And she went on to go to North Carolina A&T, and she's doing her thing out here in entrepreneurship. Support this sister, if you
Yes,
would.
and there it is right there. Preciouscargo.com. And I know she just I guess worked a partnership with one of the local co-ops here, and you can buy her
Yes.
candles there um, at the local co-op in
It's
Greensboro.
Deep Roots
Deep
Grocery.
Roots Co-op.
Deep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you're in the Greensboro area and downtown Greensboro, Eugene Street, the Deep Roots Co-op, you can find Precious Cargo candles. So please support. Go to the website, check it out. And with that, I want to also remind everybody to before McKee finishes, just to thumb up the video, like it, share it out, share the wealth because we're trying to uplift, edify, and empower. But go ahead, brother McKee. You got more shout outs.
Yeah, yeah, big time. Yeah, Janita got me laughing. That was a question. Another shout out is also want to shout out. There is oh man,
Uh oh.
hold on, everybody, hold on.
Uh oh.
Gotta
Yeah.
go
While
Black
he's doing
Library.
that, once again, want to just shout out some of our information for those that's checking us out on YouTube or Facebook or wherever. Just a reminder, you can follow us on all our social media at Clergy for Cures, which is the social purpose organization that I was blessed to co-found with Pastor Tanya Reeves. Or you could check out our website, www.clergyforcures.org. Uh, but go ahead, Brother McKee, as you were saying.
Yeah, share, repost, and subscribe. I also want to shout out a African American author, Vincent Morris, right here. Vincent Morris. These are resources for you guys. This is a literary resource, and he has about 30 books of fiction about us, about the black community, about black entrepreneurship. He has fictional stories about that. This story right here is about a black woman who left her small town in the South, went off to Winston-Salem State University. Big shout out to the Rams, and got her degree back home and started buying up property. And that's me on the cover right there. I'm a evil landlord that's trying to block her. I'm just joking that. I'm not
Yeah,
doing
I
that.
was
I
about
think
to
I'm,
say somebody looked very familiar on that cover.
yeah, we're not self promoting. We just promoting the self. But yeah, she goes back to her hometown, buys up a bunch of property, and she does something that's become uncollege like. There was just a report rendered the other day talking about how the more African Americans have gone to college, the wider the wealth gap has gotten between whites and blacks. And we were kind of sold the idea that higher education would close a ton of those metrics, but um, we're pro school. I think I can speak for being on that as well. But unfortunately, our colleges and universities don't teach us entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship does not mean that you cannot also have a 9 to 5. You can do both until one outgrows the
Yes,
other. So big
yes.
shout out to Vincent Morris. You can find all his books on Amazon. They're all on there. So support local African American authors. Uh, Great to see us writing. Great to see us reading. And for centuries, we were kept away from doing both. Um, and is on it tonight. She said they don't teach basic finances either. No, they don't. Janita, no, they don't. You better speak. You better bring it. You better give our
Yeah.
souls some
It,
therapy, Janita. No, go
that's
ahead,
right.
man.
That's right.
I know you got
But
something on that.
no, no, no. But that's a key point. And the one thing is for you to actually learn and go in depth to get that knowledge, the more money you have to spend. So if you come from a socioeconomic structure where you have to access student loans and a lot of debt, for you to go deeper and further in education to kind of learn these things, a lot of people incur a lot of debt. So it's kind of catch 22, but speaking to that point speaks the emphasis of why we try to bring this knowledge to the forefront and speak on it, and why we're doing things like the academy, and why we're trying to do programs, especially working with the younger generation to give them a early sense of financial literacy, planning, entrepreneurship. And like Brother McKee said, it's not about leaving a 9 to 5, but you need to understand the value of multiple streams of income. You need to understand the power in entrepreneurship, even if it's under an umbrella, but you're doing things to kind of, as we say, hunt and survive on your own. But a lot of things goes back to the habits we have coming up through generations, through our cultures, through family, and a lot of us don't have privy to a lot of uh, financial uh, habits early on. And that's one thing I know we had Brother Harry Reeves on the C4C News show. We did an episode on that, and he spoke well. When he spoke to the academy, he kind of went and delved more into his role with JD Financial in trying to work with individuals and communities and minority businesses to work on their habits and their financial planning, and habits that may not have been something regularly taught, or there's a different view because of socioeconomic backgrounds or whatever. So that's very powerful. Thank you for that, Sister Janita and Brother McKee, lifting that up.
Yeah, Janita is right all over it. We don't colleges don't basic finances, and she's going on to say that many financial habits are in the form of quick money. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
true. And if it comes quick, it goes quick a lot of times. to feed off her energy. And what we were saying earlier, this article in what is this? This is I think it's the New York Times, but it talks about man, I lost my place. College costs have soared in recent years, but black students get less help from their parents to cover them. In 2012, 60% white families contributed an average of $73,400 towards their
Mm,
college age children's education. According
wow.
to a study, nearly 3,000 households published by the St. Louis Fed, just 34% of black families assisted an average of $16,000. So
Mm,
white families, parents are helping their children at 64% of them are helping their children. And they're giving $73,000 at that. Black families, 34% are able to help their children, and they're only able to give $16,000 a day. Now, as Reverend Jesse Jackson used to say, that's the therefore. What is the whereas? Like if you read a proclamation in front of city council, therefore, whereas. The whereas is when I'm only getting $16,000 or less, or 66% of black students not getting anything at all from the crib. I got to do what usually? If I don't get any scholarships, I got to get student loans.
yeah. And Janita asked,
And
oh, does that report clarify, like, are they first time college students? Are they going back? First generation?
that's a great question. It does not not say if they're first generation uh, or first time college students.
Yeah.
It doesn't dig that deeply into the collegiate aspect that Janita's talking about, but it just talks about the end results and
Yeah.
what we have going in, I guess, first generation and just all, no matter what.
And,
That would be a great thing to find out as well.
and I will say, because we don't try to get too political, but I will throw this out there, and we don't try to brand it one. We just have honest conversation. But that is a hot topic now, which I just saw some reports on the talks in Congress, and they're throwing out forgiving student loan debt, which has been a struggle. But then now they're speaking of possibly trying to reach a medium of forgiving up to 50,000, maybe. So this topic is being debated. So those of you that watch this that have student loans, like I do, that I struggle with, we need to be mindful of what's going on in these conversations, and be aware, because we could be impacted by this. If things go well in discussions, and they do allow, uh, Janita's got them loans too. I hear you, sis. But that is a very big discussion. So we will pray, and we're gonna send that positive energy that Congress will keep working to get that done, because that will help a lot of people across the board, a lot of families uh, that are dealing with that issue of student loan debt, and help people to kind of get a little jump or a little push further ahead to where they can get to those places, maybe of entrepreneurial aspects, or investment, or whatever, and that's a key. That's a key with some of our struggles economically, with the majority of our nation. Janita asked another question. Oh, she working us tonight, McKee. Do you think education should be free? Mm, that's a good question. I'm gonna let you dive into that, brother McKee, since you're our brother on higher ed, and then I'll
Yeah,
I'll I'll veggie back on what you said.
I hear you. I
We
hear
don't
you.
say piggyback here. Myself and Brother William, we
Oh,
try.
Benjamin, yeah.
I ain't gonna get into that.
Oh,
But go ahead. Do you think, and particularly when we're speaking,
spoken like
American context, college, we're speaking college, for those
spoken
that
like the true.
might are international crowd, huh?
Yeah, I didn't know. I was going to say spoken like the true Duke seminarian that you are. I didn't know if that was a new term in the vocabulary of theology right now. Uh,
No,
okay,
no.
I'll take the first shot at it, Ben. Janita, keep it coming. I love it.
Yes.
I'll take a stab at it. That's a great question. You know, President Biden campaigned on forgiving student loans, and you want to perk up the ears of people the age of 25 to 45 or somewhere in there. Tell them you're going to forgive student loans, and they hear you because back to the article, with only 30 some percent of us getting assistance and getting very little assistance for parents, we go straight to the loan, check mark on the fact application, federal uh, student aid, financial aid, that is. And we're in big time student loan debt. So we have that albatross of student loan debt hanging over our credit score, over our ability to purchase and buy. And what started out to be something to elevate us, education, turns out something that shadows and hampers us. So I hope President Biden is able to fulfill that promise. Uh, the Democrats don't have a sizable lead in the majority in the House to get a lot of things like that done, and let alone in the Senate. So it's a tough one. If there was a way
Yeah.
he could do a presidential, everybody seems to be doing now, um, writing it in at the executive level as a presidential proclamation. It's not a proclamation. I'm blanking on the word. Um, a resolution, presidential resolution, but it can be repealed when the next president comes in. Doesn't even have to be through a congressional vote. The next president can just say that's over with. So you don't prefer to do that. To answer your question, then send it back to Ben. There was a time in education. If you look at education history, to Janita's question, K through 12 wasn't always free in America. There was a time where kindergarten through 12th grade, if you didn't have enough money to pay for it at a private school, you didn't go to school. You worked the crops or you did something else with your time. So that was
Mhm.
unthinkable at one point. So just to briefly answer your question, yes, I think higher education should be free. Um, Maybe not all of it, but for example, President Biden has talked a lot about using the community college system as kind of a baseline to say, if you want to go to college and you're willing to go to a community college, and some states have 4-year community colleges, and maybe that would expand under something like this with a federal subsidy, then you may not go to Harvard
Mhm.
or Howard for free, private schools, upper crust, both of them. But you could go to your local community college and get a very competitive, adequate 4-year degree. And I think the country would benefit from it. Let me just say one quick thing. If there's any conservative folk watching tonight, which we welcome them to, try to think about everything through the lens of race all the time. And some people do
Mhm.
it pathologically. They don't even realize they're doing it. Think about global
Mhm.
competitiveness. And I don't think we always have to compete with other countries all the time. But I know
Mhm.
we're into that. So there are about 2 billion plus Chinese citizens. and a ton of them are going to get higher education. Just go to the engineering schools right here in America, and
Mhm.
you'll see a huge swath of dedicated Asian students. And if that's the competition, you need every hand on deck right here in America, black, white, Latino, to be educated. So I think the country would benefit. It would be a return on the investment that would be exponential, and the ends would justify the means, and it would be a great thing. I think that was a great question, Jeter. What you think about
Yeah.
that, Ben?
Well,
Go
just the
Benedict
veggie bag,
College. Go Benedict College.
which is a private institution as well. So just to veggie back, um, I agree, but to a certain degree, because here's the element that we have to look at. I think a lot of times, you know, we look at the victory from one aspect and don't look at the loss in another. And I think when we're looking at state schools, uh, maybe not so much private, but maybe like state schools, if we now say, okay, education is free, it's my sense, and I hope I'm totally wrong, that they will find other ways to get that money and receive it to fund it. Because if we're going to take that aspect out, then where does the weight go? Who totes the weight? So will we see it on taxes? Will certain industry, like, who's going to take the weight? So that we have to be aware. If we get it on one end, we have to be aware that it then it becomes something that has to pay for itself. Well, how is it going to do that? So then it impacts all the citizens, and not just to where it may have just impacted that family, but to that degree. I think, to Brother McKee's point, when he was speaking to forgiveness, I think what we should have is maybe a system to where, as you know, where there's a forgiveness program or loans, or they work with you. Say, if you go to a community college and get a 2-year degree, maybe there are certain programs that you transfer into that are low cost, or that if you go in like a fellowship where you maintain employment in a certain field or something, going through that program for a certain amount of time, then your loan is forgiven. I think um, a lot of times, um, we're hurt because there's no uh, incentive for a lot of that, and then loans pile up. And if someone is like me, a non-traditional student that needs a little extra time to get through undergraduate studies because of in and out, that stuff piles up, and then we can see discouragement. But I think if we're not going to allow schools to be, or higher education to be free, I think there needs to be incentives with encouraging people to go in the fields with fellowships, and a track that shows, hey, if you do this, like McKee said, then you've paid it back, and then it becomes an investment, because now you have people that are contributing to the workforce, you have people contributing to the tax brackets, you have people contributing to their local communities wherever they're going to live. And I think it pays off in the long run, because if I have more what we say, that guilt-free money, speaking in the terms of Harry Reeves when he did the breakdown, if I have more guilt-free money, then I'm going to spend it in my community where I live, which therefore increases the value of that community. But that can be a whole other discussion. Um, you need to
Yes.
ask. Yes, they do, but a lot of that, comes for those that go through a direct educational program. But like I say, for those of us that that might not go through a education program, there's not a lot of those incentives out there like that. Like I myself, though I got into teaching, I didn't take a educational route. I was a uh, recreation major, but I had things that corresponded for lateral entry, things like that. So I was fortunate, but a lot of it is based on. Well, we see that with teaching fellowships, yes, but we don't see that a lot across the board. All of the many. I'm hitting the blank. The many. What do we say, McKee, in education? The many cross. Uh, you
And,
know what I'm talking about.
yeah, and for the record, Ben is taught in the schools for 15 years,
11 and some change. We'll say
11 and some change. And I'm an instructor in the community college system at this time, been an administrator. So, some skin in the game with higher ed. I like Janita's question too. She says taxes. Yeah. And there's a lot of creative ways to extract it from taxes. It doesn't always have to be, tax experts can tell us or legislators can tell us about the various avenues of extracting something from the tax base, which is a tough sell with our friends on the right side of the aisle or the wrong. Now, but yeah, that's a tough sell to Republicans usually, and because they really so that's the importance of voting and the importance of the drawing of these congressional districts that's going on right now nationally into this states' rights, this return to states' rights, whereby states are deciding individually uh, through these gerrymandered voting districts, drawing them in a way that ensures that this population shift doesn't ill affect a certain party. So the need to be politically active and getting out and vote is important too. So great questions from Janita. But yeah, taxes is one way it could be done. There's also plans, I think Ben touched on this, if you agree to do a certain amount of service back to the community post graduation. So you're so back in another kind of way, but you could pledge. So, for example, I used to work the Call Me Mister program at Clemson, that's based at Clemson University, but the Misters are at Benedict College. They're at South Carolina State University. They're also at about 20 some universities around the country now. But those Misters get a scholarship to teach the third grade for at least 3 years. So you got African American males impacting third grade age students, black, white, Latino, reimagining the example of what an African American man is to a person at the third grade. So if you have Mr. Johnson, that was just this awesome teacher that helped grow your learning and you loved him, that's probably going to shape how you see African American men for the rest of your life. Awesome program. Check out Call Me Mister, based at Clemson University. But it's at Benedict, South Carolina State, Morris Colleges, and several others. Brought them up to say those African American men to go into teaching for 3 years, and they agreed to, yeah, they agreed to teach for 3 years. So they're sewing back into the state of South Carolina where the program started. So that state has benefited exponentially in that investment. You can't even quantify what those misters have done. That's a good question, Janita. Do you ever call me miss? Hmm. That's been the question since that program was founded.
So,
That's a good.
sounds like Janita has a calling.
I think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's the energy we bring to this table, and we need that. Go ahead, brother McKee.
Right. You're right though. Amen. But yeah, no, that Call Me Mister was founded um, by a Clemson University professor who happened to be a white male who decided he saw some terrible statistics about black graduation, black retention, and he said, "Wow!" And he loved the movie The Heat of the Night or the TV show The Heat of the Night, and it goes back to that original film where it called me Mr. Tibbs. So
Yeah,
saying call me Mr. in the South was a big deal for a black man because we weren't caught with everything but that. So he put a program together called Call Me Mr., an uplifting mantra. And he said, we'll give scholarships to black males because they're the demographic that seems to be most under the boot heel of oppression. They did not do a Call Me Miss. They did not. And to my knowledge, there still isn't one. But sometimes when that type of thing happens, it's just waiting on a founder. It's just hint, hint,
yeah,
it's just waiting on a
yeah.
founder. So maybe you're the person that could
And and
spark.
and in all fairness to that movement, it was to address the shortage of black males in the education system.
Exactly.
Because we see it's majority uh, women.
Right.
Uh, I don't know the ratios black to white as far as women, but we do know it was in the midst of a time to try to push and get black males into the education scene. So, in fairness to that organization, that it was centrally focused around that, and like Brother McKee said, also bringing a more positive view of black males to younger kids so they can grow up without, you know, any conditions that's done, by the social apparatus or anything. But great need. Janita says we need one, but but in all honesty, that was one of the few fields as blacks could get into. I know, McKee, your mother was an educator. My mother was an educator. Many of the women of our community that were able to go to college, in that generation, because I know your mother was the first of that generation. And that was one of the few fields. When you look at the history of Bennett College and Winston-Salem State as a teacher's college, that was one of the few fields. So that's been inbred, but I think, it was never a I guess a go-to field for males. We, might have gone the more physical laborious jobs, even though now teaching can be physical labor. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm not going to put that energy out there. It now needs to be the focus of keeping our young ones alive. Yeah. And
Yeah.
to that point, you know, just stepping out of the educational system and let me say this, because this is, once again, this is therapy, and we're uplifting community to those who dedicate themselves in public education anywhere, and working with the youth and tomorrow's leaders. We say kudos and thank you. um, those in higher ed, we thank you. But uh, the one issue that I see is is the fact of, we have to try to get out of a mentality of, let's always try to do the most with the least. And what I mean by that is, every door you go to, they're like, we don't have enough to fund this or do this budget. And a lot of times we see this circumventing to say, let's try to squeeze a little more blood out of this turnip. But then when you look at the value that's placed on, as Brother McKee brought up earlier, if you just speaking in general terms, and but if you're looking at it from a competitive global nature, in turn, how can you say, well, we won't put forth that extra effort, that extra push financially, economically, because if we look at the root of economics, it just means household. Come on now, we're gonna get into some Greek terminology, but if we look at the economics of the whole nature of it, and we prize ourselves on becoming more equipped for the 21st century and being global, but yet we don't want to fund the resources needed to keep up and make it equitable, uh, for those to have an advantage. So it just it's a tough situation because we're like, why must there be a fight to get more funding, more resources for something that we consider so valuable that will help lead our nation into the 21st century and continue to be at the forefront in on the world stage, so to speak. You see that conundrum? Am I daydreaming, McKee? Talk to me. Ease. I need some therapy for my soul on that right there. Talk to me, man. Am I? But does it seem like we kind of trying to run in two directions? And
Yeah, we are running in two directions. No, you're not dreaming, and you're not the only one. I'm gonna just dip back real quick
before
to
you do
the
that,
art.
let me clarify the we, because I
Go
try to
ahead.
speak in universal terms because with this show we not trying to get in combative. We just trying to convey so because I know Janita's a little fiery. I gotta keep her a little calm because we don't want to get in the combative nature. But when I say we, I speak of the federally and state funded education system, which we all are a part of and impacted by. I have children in the system. I used to teach in the system. So when I say we, I say it's the collective because I try to use it in the collective because we have to be the ones to come to the table and talk and try to address and solve these issues. So that's the we. I speak collectively, Janita. I ain't gonna point no fingers. Stop that. Go ahead, brother McKee.
And, and I'll say, to her question too, until the we means we. We don't need to
Hmm.
wonder why we sputter, why we have to read
Yeah.
these issues all the time, because let's just say the word Americans. We
Yes.
have every opportunity as a nation for we to mean everybody.
Hmm.
Um, but, there was that old saying in politics, politics stops at the shore's edge, meaning when we go global, we don't fight partisan politics anymore. We are a collective, or as Dr. Carr says, we do like Voltrons. They come together. What does he
Come
say?
together and form. Yeah.
Like Voltron. But when it comes down to when the rubber meets the road and there's a scarcity of resources, we always splinter into these different we's, and it's along color lines too much since the inception of the country. Uh,
Hmm.
but that's the big flaw in America. Uh, this uncle says also, um, more than 84% of college educated black households in their 30s have student debt. 84%. 84% of college educated black households have student loan debt. 3 decades 30 years ago, it was 35%. So, we're in college, and I don't know if that's what this great sister right here envisioned. I don't know if Mary McLeod Bethune, if you don't know who she is, please read about her, because she started a college that a university that now has 4,000 plus students. She started it with about $6.12.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell us what you can't do, with a big dream and a lot of commitment, as that sister had. But yeah. So just to kind of put a bookend on that earlier discussion about student loan debt and what does education mean now. Um, the that is African Americans is in 84% of us in college come away with serious debt, some into the six figures. And as one person says, somebody said they'll give you a car loan, they'll give you an education loan, won't give you a business loan. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but we're going to be a collective or we're not. And the country will rise and fall based on how we can work together. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's and that's the
And
big thing. Huh?
real
Go
quick,
ahead.
shout
Give a
out. I
shout.
didn't mean to cut you off. Um,
Go ahead.
Shirt that I have on, if you can see that, big shout out to Names Are Not Important with Mac and Free. That's not me. My last name is McKee, but this is Del Ficio McDonald, Brother D, as we affectionately call him, and the dynamic duo that is Brother Ben, Pastor Ben Free, and Brother D. So check them out on their site on Facebook and check out some old episodes. And the fans are calling for new episodes like Outcast, like people call for
We got
Outcast,
to make them wait. We got to make them wait a little bit. We got to make them wait a little bit so
like
they want.
like
But
Andre and
but
Big Boy.
but but that's powerful though, because that's the situation. I'm glad Jadita asked that question because it brings us to the topic. We haven't moved as a we. We haven't moved as a unit. And like we spoke maybe last episode or a couple episodes ago, I can't remember. With our societal makeup now, we put everybody in categories and compartments, which keeps us in divided talks because you're this, you're that. And we don't do it as the collective, and which also led to a system of consumerism,
Yeah,
and just like uh, you know, you know, even if it's well, I really want that education. Well, if you really want it, you can't pay for it. We'll give you this credit, give you this credit line, right? Uh, and it keeps us in a cycle, and just wanting to speak some power, you know. But that's the main reason why we have to continue having these discussions, and then looking at ways to to I guess navigate it, as well as looking at ways to build up, I guess, as we like to use here, empowerment, but self-sufficiency. And that's the thing we have to do with our organizations and these innovators out here. We have to keep pushing, especially to the younger generation, the knowledge of how to better navigate the game. Because a lot of times, um, I'm trying to be nice, but I might have to take the gloves off. A lot of times, we're like I say, we're placed in a place of consumerism, or we're being trained to be uh, workers, but we're not given that tutelage for how to really navigate the game, and a lot of it is built on um, ignorance, and people look at that as a bad word, but that just means you don't know something. Um, Ignorance, a lot of that is just what we spoke to earlier, just generationally things because others were denied certain access and families and cultures. So now there's a different habit, there's a different view, there's a different prioritization. I'm trying to use these big words that I be learning in school, but uh, on certain things and how we view them, which has come to hurt uh, many families, many communities, many movements because of that. And I think that right there is the pinpoint because if we don't come to the we, um, then we have to find it somewhere else, whether it's in our community or whether it's with our associations, our affiliations. If we do that, then that we has to move to make it us. You see what I'm saying? And then and once again a shout out to those who are making those movements, such as the Poor People's Campaign, a call to a moral revival, and many of the groups on the ground doing stuff to combat this because right now there's not a we. um, and definitely not an us. But to you, brother McKee, what else? We've been rolling on this 50 minutes. We ain't even got into some. Let me see who. All right, let me see what Janita say. Many no longer believe in higher ed because they have found other avenues.
Yeah. So, on that note, to Nita's point, that's another great point. Um, Prior to this present position I'm in, I worked for several years with the Phelps Stokes Fund, who co-founded about at least 13 HBCUs back in the 19th century. And our president, Dr. B.D. Foster, who founded Black Studies at Princeton, used to say, education for who and for what purpose? We always just say education, but the question is never answered. For who? Who is the education? For whom? Who is the education for? Is it for everybody? Does it enhance everybody? Because all education does help, i.e., miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Woodson. Education for who and for what purpose? This book on Dr. King right here has a whole section on education, but this was a pedagogy that informed people to act for the greater human good, as Brother Ben just said. And also, I would add, and he had a piece on economics, that you would come out of these programs, these degree programs, and not just bragging about what you achieved, but putting it to some good use to build community, even entrepreneurially, so
Mm-hmm.
that the community is strengthened. Way to Janita's point, many don't believe in higher education. They found other avenues, and there are avenues to find, i.e., the internet and Google. People used to go to college to get information. You don't have to do that anymore in a lot of respects. You just Google it, or you just pay a membership to a professional organization, and you can go through the catacombs of their whole
Mm-hmm.
catalog. Now, many people still believe that there's just something special about taking a class, and there's something humble about it that you could sit a class. Janita makes a
Let me
good
ask
point.
a question. Let me ask a question, brother McKee, because looking at that scenario, have has there been a shift? Because we know when there's economic turns in the country,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen patterns of people going back to school after that. to get a more of a concentration and hopefully better chances at better employment or opportunities. But do you know of like the consistency of how, because I've always seen numbers that only about 30% of graduates go to college. Has that number, do you feel or do you know if that number shifted in this age of technology? Like you brought up the point about the internet and everything. Have you seen a shift in that? What, or are our numbers still kind of saying not too much? Like what does that look like
Um,
to further flesh that out?
so, right, that's a good question, Ben. In the community college system, we know that when there's an economic downturn, when job numbers,
Hmm.
when jobs are tougher to get, when the economy's down, when there are not a lot of jobs out there, like 2008, for example. Uh, well, 2008 and back, when unemployment was extremely high, community college enrollment goes way up. So the community college where I worked, their enrollment usually hovered around 9,000, pretty big community college. And in 2007, for example, they were up to like 16,000 students.
Wow.
Because when people don't have jobs, they go back to school. They do that to down that Pell Grant sometimes, or
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
financial aid refund. It becomes revenue to live. So that kind of the seesaw effect of unemployment and college enrollment. Here's an interesting statistic right here from bestcolleges.com where it says nearly 94 million or 42% of Americans ages 25 and over have a college degree of some type. White Americans make up the overwhelming majority of degree holders. Um, what percentage of U.S. students go to college? About 10.4% of adult students are enrolled either part time or full time in college. That's according to
10 point,
educationdata.org.
wow, 10.4% of them. So, okay, okay. And that's,
Our current,
I guess that's been pretty consistent. Has it downtrodden or gone down or gone up? Hard to
yeah,
say.
it's hard to say. I think with the introduction of online colleges,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
might be a pretty safe bet that with the University of
yeah.
Phoenix and Capella, that those numbers are
Mankind
going up.
and yeah,
Yeah, it's never been easier to enroll. Enroll from the comfort of your couch. So,
yeah.
but you know, but I think to Janita's point, there's so much. I think I can speak for you. We're advocates for higher education, but the person going to school has to be the captain of that scholarship. Um,
Exactly, exactly.
Using the metaphor of a ship and a captain, you gotta be a scholar to be on that ship. We used to say at Clemson, and but you got to drive that ship. You got to be the captain of that ship. So
Yeah.
no longer are the days where we can sit back and depend on our Office of Career Services to place us in a job. If they can,
Hmm.
great. If your degree leads you right to a employment, awesome. But we have to empower these degrees and say,
Yeah.
well, my community needs a center to solve disputes. So I have a degree in peacekeeping or public diplomacy. I'll set up a center right there in the
Mm.
neighborhood of dispute
Yeah.
resolution. Or I'm a
Yeah.
business major. What's the old scene from Boys in the Hood where Doughboy or Ice Cube's whose dad was there? No, that was Trey's dad. Cuba Gooding's dad, who set up a business right there in South Central Los Angeles. So we have to be creative with our degrees now, and not be
Yeah.
afraid to
Yeah. hmm
do
And
some
further
different.
to that, and further to that point, because I'm big on words, and uh, Janita used the word believe, and I feel where she's going with that, because also too, um, when we get those degrees, and we're in that time, when we're talking about young people, a lot of times going through these programs, and then you look at several years later, how many don't end up not working in the field that they went to college for, right?
Yeah.
Or what they majored in. Or they may have dabbled in it, but they didn't find the success they were seeking, and then found it in something else. You understand what I'm saying? Um,
Mhm.
and I see where that's happening. Where but like I say, yes, we myself pursuing a master's degree, to 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 better, I guess, solidify myself in my vocation. McKee is pursuing his doctorate. So we do it, but we also have the knowledge to say, hey, there's other things we have to do, with the knowledge we're gaining from there, with the knowledge we're bringing in from our experiences and our community and those we learn from. So it's not the end all be all as well. And there are many entrepreneurial steps and life experience that you can have outside of the educational realm, that may bring you back to becoming one of those individuals that may teach what your experiences are and what you've learned in the game of life and in industry and in entrepreneurship, to these universities, to these schools. So we never want to look at it as an end all be all, right? We want to look at it as an enhancement to some of the things you're doing, but we never want to depend on that. As McKee said, the life center, the job center, and stuff. We never want to depend on that and say, "Hey, I got this. What you got for me?" No, we want to have things going. Like Brother McKee has McKee mediation. You know, we're all a part of Clergy for Cures. We have many things we're trying to do, and therefore, it's about creating options while creating impact. And one thing we try to be big about is having impact. What's impact? So hence this platform, so that you all can engage in conversation and you can take something back. And if there are other resources, we'll bring them. Uh, and Janita echoes that, and I echo her. Sometimes experience is the best teacher, and it is. It is. The only issue sometimes is us taking that step to gain the experience. And that's been a hindrance because, and McKee may want to speak on this, we've always been taught in our systems and fear. Well, if you do this, it's going, oh, don't do. And therefore, a lot of times, those fears that we've been taught in school, because it's always a punishment, and you've taught to fear this, fear, it causes us to kind of negate the value of just. Now, I'm not saying uneducated, but an educated, and not speaking of instructional or institutional education, an educated meaning a researched risk. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we have passions and things we like, but because we've been had this fear and plan it, we don't take that risk, and we know, hey, I love doing this. It uplift. I'm into this. I study it. I learn it, but I don't have this or I don't have that. And this person says I need this, and this bank says, and then it causes us to negate the power of the ultimate resource that we speak here, which is you. And if you, going back to Brother Jesse Jackson, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And that belief is powerful, right? Let me see, Janitas. That's right. Or stay stagnant. We stay stagnant. And, you know, sometimes I might be on my Steve Harvey, but sometimes we jump and we don't know what's at the end, what's at the bottom. We don't know. We don't know. But sometimes you just have to set out on that path. And that's what we're doing. And like I say, most of the times you see, and this is, I don't want to put out any disrespectful energy or say one is better than I'm not getting into that discussion. But a lot of times, faith. Thank you, Janita. But a lot of times when you look at even this realm of social entertainment, we're live here on Facebook and Periscope and YouTube. But a lot of the stuff we're not putting out that that catchy and that and that's not our synergy right now. Our synergy is positive energy and conversational and engaging and empowering. And we have to get back to that because what's being lost in all this is that connection and that human element, right? And I think we miss out because we're always put in a place where you got to choose this side or that side. You can get with this or you can get with that, which is unfair. Let's just lay it out, discuss it, hash it out, and let's do the best to where we can continue to edify each other. So where, hey, we push each other. Everybody doesn't have to agree that this way is the best, that way is the best. This is right or wrong. But if we agree that we're doing this to better one another, then now we have power. Brother McKee, I'm off my diatribe. Go ahead.
Because who's the black sheep?
So
Who's
what?
the black sheep?
Oh yeah.
Who's the
Oh
sheep?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the black sheep? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and Janita's kind of she's summoning the spirit of the great Goop from the mighty group Gangstar with DJ Premier and those boys up there. Experience the best teacher. Thoughts will spray like
Yeah.
sweet street sweepers. Okay?
Street sweepers. Yeah.
Little daddy street preacher. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, experience is the best teacher. And when your experience meets your formal training and you got a great plan and you move out, that's a great combination because training is still important. Education is still important, but without experience, it makes too many errors. And without faith, it's all dead. So, big shout out to her on that. And back real quick, Forbes magazine has an article, 2021 article that does verify that college degree attainment has steadily going up as the years go on. Kind of answer that question.
So it's going up. Man, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
that, like you said, Brother McKee, is attributed to the online opportunities now, where more working class people can go back and not
Right.
have to leave a 9 to 5, or those who may not feel comfortable going to being in a college setting or big classes, they can, take that in a comfort level in their home and have a direct connection more so with that professor than they maybe would in a normal college setting or an on-campus setting or traditional setting. So, but boy, I tell you, I've enjoyed this. We're gonna have to shoot Janita the link one day to jump on and shout out to her
She was
for
brilliant.
engaging. She's doing some great work with the. I hope she don't get mad for me sharing this, but she works with the city of Thomasville in emergency services. So I'll just say that. I don't want to put it out there. People might be like, "Oh, let's go." No, I'm joking, um, but yeah,
Thank you for
brother.
your.
Yeah, yeah. But brother, I'm feeling good. I'm a little tired. And I'll get into this because I know we usually cut it around an hour, but we flowing with it, man. Brother McKee is dropping major jewels tonight. A little tired, man. Long week, and I know you started back, man. But I had an intensive week at school, and then with that on top of church and family obligations. A little tired. So apologize if I'm looking half sleep on here, y'all. But brother McKee, I know you started your journey back, man. But uh, listen, it's wild that in the midst of starting that, we got on, which is good, because we haven't addressed that yet. And being that, you're an instructor as well as a student, I'm a student, former educator. We hadn't really delved into education that much. So, uh, powerful conversation, powerful build. But, the thing, you know, and I share this with you often, but for those watching, they may not know. The way I view it is I have to see the connection and how I can use it to better everybody. How can I enhance humanity with it? How can I use this? I know I have to make decisions because I have a family I support and I have to be accountable for that. But for me to truly thrive in it, I have to see, well, how can I use it? Even if it's just to open a door for someone else, or even if it's to bring certain knowledge back to build people up. In my vocation, um, we are called to make disciples in our mentor. But more so in discipleship, it's an ongoing process, right? And one needs a guide in the teachings, right? In the disciplines, as we call it. And that was the word I was looking for earlier. In the various disciplines, right? But that guide brings you to a point where you can go out and then you can be that guiding light. Even when, if we look at the teachings of Christ, Christ didn't say, "No, y'all stay beside me the whole time." Christ said, "I gave you the truth, so go out." So when we look at education, we're looking at an experience, we're looking at relationships, we're looking at a ongoing process of growth in your disciplines, whatever you discipline yourself in, right? And then where you're empowered once you take that knowledge from whatever vessel, whether it be a person, a school, or a college, university, or whatever. But you get to a point where you master it and then you can take it out and help to build up others as well. Not to say, hey, you're my minion, but you're studying a discipline because I may have more experience to offer you to bring you to an understanding so that you will be empowered. So I look at education like that. It's a part of my discipleship, my growth to gain more knowledge of resources to share that light to bring others to a point where they can go and share as well. Brother McKee, thoughts, and then we'll get ready to break on out.
Yeah, I share that agreement with you on the purpose of education. That true root word of that word education, that educare, which one definition is to bring out the best in. You know, true education should bring out the best in us. Um, and so I subscribe to that. I'm gonna leave you guys with a couple things from Dr. King, and they speak for themselves. It's quick. A lot of people hadn't heard Dr. King on education. But this man had a PhD by the time he was 26 years old. So you talk about a commitment to education. I think he started Morehouse College. Big shout out to Morehouse and the ATL. I think he started Morehouse College at 16 years old, if
16.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So uh, he has some powerful gems on leadership and education. A couple of them, real quick. And again, like and share, subscribe. And Dr. King said this on leadership and leadership, but it has educational implications. He said, one, set goals and create a plan of action. This is any organization or a person. Dr. Martin Luther King said, set goals and a plan of action. If we have a business with no business plan, what is our roadmap? And it's a bunch of us out here that do that. Number two was create new formal alliances. Don't be scared to go outside of your circle or a space that you think there may be no allies when there could be that missing key in another demographic. Don't be afraid. Friendships in all walks of life. Number three, involve the people of your organization or of the community. Number four, seek dialogue and negotiation. Uh, Very important one for me, being that I do conflict resolution.
Hmm.
And number five was innovate. Dr. Martin Luther King telling us to be innovative. If it's in your heart to try or to found that company or to start that version of Call Me Mr., Call Me Miss in North Carolina, Dr. King was in, was urging us to do those things. Let's grow our souls, starting with the person in the enjoy. Real quick note before we go, a future show. This is tentative. I think we're saying September 7th on a soul therapy episode, late night folks. We late night folks. We're going to have another African American entrepreneur who is innovating the space of computer science, and Mr. Kevin Cooper, who is the CEO, co-CEO, and founder of a exciting new app called Scratchy.com, which is an app for DJs, and it was kind of birthed out of the pandemic, and with everything that all these DJs.
Hmm.
Last night, the DJ saved my life. That
That's
was a
right.
popular song.
That's right.
So Kevin Cooper will be coming on September 7th, about 10 p.m. ish, and talk about his launch, homecoming at GHO here in Greensboro, and a September 11th program where he's having a bunch of DJs from around the world, native scratchy app. One being Technician the DJ, who is the DJ for the Locks, Rakim, and Wu-Tang, and several other groups on the road and DJs for it too. So Kevin Cooper, Scratchy.com, coming up September 7th, talking about his September event. And he's also going to be having this big tail tent with Scratchy.com at the University of Maryland versus Howard University football game at the University of Maryland's home stadium. So Scratchy.com is going to be out there, and get feed from Paris, France will be on that day, all the way to Technic DJ. He just had Kid Capri on for his virtual grand opening a few weeks back. So tell your hip hop heads and all your friends to check us out. Thanks, Ben. A great show.
No doubt, man. And I appreciate you. And like I say, please like, share, tell a friend, come in the community. And like we say, we hope this, as we grow this community, we'll have more people to come on and in discussions and talk, even, on, showing your face, not, you know, because we want this to be engaging as well, and where it'll help enhance conversation. But it serves as a therapy because a lot of times we get ripping and running with our days, you know, and we don't have that time to wind down and just have solid conversation. And sometimes you just want to talk to people about the things that's on your mind, that's weighing on you. And so we see this. This is this is my call sometimes, just to talk about things, because I may not get a chance to because I'm in school, or I'm doing whatever I'm called to do. And you know, some people call it me time, but and we'll try to be on a little bit earlier. I had some unexpected things this evening, but hey, comes with the territory. The fact is that we did come on and we made it, and we shared a wonderful time with you in this space, and we truly are thankful for the energy. So, on behalf of Resource Center Television, we say thank you, and we say peace and blessings, and we just pray that you will be blessed, and we'll see you next time.